Hi guys! Okay, so I was going to do a tutorial on... Hi guys! Okay, so I was going to do a tutorial on animation, but within the last few days I have been able to figure out how the GS map works. To do that, well, our first step was to look at current Plinko items and see how light was reflected off of the objects. You would think that, just grabbing a window and looking at it would be a simple way to figure it out. But the problem with general window facades is Plinko didn't add any shininess shaders to them. So they're all using just general base color and roughness maps. Not a single one of them is reflective, except maybe that one, but that one's using a smoothness map, or smoothness metalness. But, so that was an inclusive decision. So then I started looking at metal objects. And with metal objects, we're seeing they're using this metalness, roughness pipelines, and light is reflected, but it's scattered. And we can see that on this one, it's more of a silver object. It does reflect the object, and you can see that barely right here. It's reflecting this pipe right there. But as far as the sun is concerned, it doesn't bounce it off like glass does. Let's see if I can get a good angle here so we can see. So the glass is actually reflecting the sun in detail with the bright orange or bright white in the middle, and then the orange and red hues on the outside. So it's directly reflecting the sun. On metalness and smoothness, the light or sun hits it and it spreads and then bounces off. Here's an object that has smoothness applied to it. And here's another object that has smoothness applied to it, metalness smoothness. So you don't see the strong straight edge hues when the light's bouncing off of it like glass does. See how it's a strong edge of the sun reflecting off the glass? So an interesting note about the GS map is it creates these little white artifacts when light is bouncing off of the object. Let's see if I can get close enough to where you can see it. Okay, so they're right here. And you may have to look at these objects at home in your own game, but you can see the sun is directly reflected off of the glass, and then these little white artifacts are created to simulate the reflection of the sun. So, we know with just this little bit of information that smoothness doesn't work with glass. I still have allergies. And then we're going to pop over and look at the guide that Plinko gave us. For whatever reason, I turned it off. or I should say, that Frontier gave us. And under the Materials tab, I'm going to take a look. So, in the Texture Surface table, it shows all of these maps, right? But the one that's not on here is the glass. So, using a bit of common sense, you kind of figure that all of these probably work together without a glass map. So, if we eliminate all of these and start with just the glass map, now we go down here and we look at the individuals pipelines, and it shows, okay, this specular workflow cannot use the following. Smoothness workflow can't use glass. Metalness roughness can't use glass. Transparency doesn't use glass. Translucency can't use glass. Specular translucency, glass, can't use these two. Emissive, can't use glass. Translucent materials with smoothness, and this is what you can use with that. For a transparent material, base color, alpha color. Translucent material, base color, alpha blend. For specular transparent material, glass and base color, glass and glass. Okay, so from here, our starting point was glass and base color. And after a compile, I tried using the what we currently knew at the time as far as how maps work, which was for metalness, smoothness, roughness. Pretty much all of these maps here use a gradient of white to black to create the effects of how light is bouncing off of the object. None of that worked. Okay, so that brought me back to the guide here. And one thing that I noticed in this guide is normal maps is not one of the things that you can't use with a glass map. So I went up here to where it's talking about normal maps, okay? As far as we knew before I cracked this, every single map that we've ever used has used a normal map. Not one of those maps has used a normal map variant. So why would they give us a normal map variant to use and no one's using it because we're all using regular normal maps? Okay, so a normal map variant is basically a regular normal map inverted green channel, as this is the default for some authorizing packages. Well, okay, so that's very vague, but if you don't, if you've ever worked in other engines, a normal map variant is used or called a DUDV map, which is used for making textures for making glass or refraction, which is what water is made out of. It uses refraction. So this was a huge clue as to how to make the GS map. So knowing that nothing currently that we've used prior to the GS map used a normal map variant, and since I've already experimented with the black and white method and that didn't work, so I tried a normal map variant as my glass texture. And once I use that as my glass texture with my base color, I figured it out. So, let's see. Oh, I deleted that one. Okay, so with the normal map variant here and the base color, I knew that Planko glass. Okay, so with just the base color and the GS map as a normal map variant, we get, let's see if I can get this over here. Something that looks like this. And as you can see, we get our glass reflection, but the object itself is not transparent. So that made me think that the glass is not actually a texture map or light map per se. All it is a reflection. And that's really what it is. It doesn't make the object transparent. It's just a light reflection. So now I had to go back and figure out what was needed to make this object transparent, to make it actually turn into what we know as glass. So that's where the guide was very misleading, because the guide said that you can't use an AL map with the glass map. And in my experiments, I actually found out that you can use an AL map with the glass map and a base color. And Planko glass uses flexi color, so you can change the color, so I knew that we could use flexi with it. So I created a base color with the inverted normal map, with an AL map, and a flexi map. And with that, we get our first exact copy of Planet Coaster glass with the GS map. It's reflecting the sun. It's flexi colored. Good. It's reflecting the sun, and it's flexi colored. Still have allergies. Unfortunately, the pollen is just not letting up in my area. But I got over the cold, so that's good. So then, I went on to experimenting and found that you can change your base color to have more detail in it, and it will still give you the glass map sun reflection. And be flexi colored. Alright, so then from there I went over and I added a normal map, just a regular normal map. Okay, and what we got was something that looks like this. Now this one uses a normal map that has high height maps, meaning the depths and ridges is very sharp, like a mountain or whatever. It's really, really tall. And this is the result that we get. Now the thing about this is the normal map distorts our effect. So yes, it will shine and move with the light, but it's very distorted. And then we move over here, and this one is using a normal map that is low on the channels, and this is the effect that we get. Now the light hits the normal map, and what the normal map is doing is it's spreading the light all over the place. But with the GS on it, it creates this really cool veiny effect going on. So then from there, I was looking at gems and trying to figure out if there's a way to create this impurity that's inside the gem. But from the gem actually uses the glass map, and that's how the sun is able to reflect off of it. But Frontier likes to bake high poly normals on low poly objects, and to do that they have to use normal maps. So with the gem, that gave me a big clue that you could use normal maps with the glass map. But if you look at their normal map, it's low level, meaning it doesn't have a lot of extreme height to it. So that is why the light is reflecting much like glass, is because the normal map isn't distorting the glass map. So then I tried different experiments to see if I could create these impurities that are in the glass or in the gem. And I actually rotated around backwards and looked at the gem through the glass and noted that it's super reflective, like almost a pure silver color. And that's an effect that you get with a roughness metalness map. So at that point I started experimenting with metalness maps, and I came out to this. This is a normal map with a metalness map and the glass map, and it creates this really nice shiny effect and following the light with those artifacts that we've seen over here. So that's cool. And then this is the metalness map, and this time I blurred out and made the normal map a very low height level. So then we almost get a really strong shine going on here. Okay, And then over here, I tried using the full metalness roughness pipeline, and as you can see, we no longer have our lighting effect. And so what happened is the roughness map canceled out the glass map, and so we no longer have the glass map anymore. So that was actually one thing the guide was right about. You can't use roughness with the glass maps. Then over here, this is the metalness with roughness without a normal maps to see how that would affect it. And as you can see, we no longer have our reflection anymore of the sun. It's kind of blurred and weird, and it's kind of like cloudy. So clearly you cannot use a roughness or a smoothness map with the glass map. But you can use metalness, and you can use a normal map. But at that point, you might as well just use the metalness pipeline on your AL map, because you'll get the same result. So then I went back and looked at some other objects to see what possibly was being used with the glass effect to get that sharp edge of the sun. And surprisingly, the Planet Coaster symbol here and Coaster King are using the glass map. So what that tells you is that your object doesn't have to be translucent. And, just from our first experience with the black cube, that it doesn't have to be translucent to have that effect. So that means that the glass map itself is not a transparency map. And it's not an opaque map either. It's literally just a special effect that reflects light, or the sun, exactly. It won't reflect objects like metal does, but it does reflect the sunlight. And that's really all it is just a special effect. So that was interesting to find that out. So, now that we know that information, I went back and looked at the gem again to see if I could create these impurities. And no matter what I did to the DUDV map / normal map variant, it would not create these impurities. So, what that tells us is I took the gem and I put it over here next to the water. Now, Planet Coaster water uses refraction, which is something we cannot create in the Theme Maker's Toolkit. And with the game paused here, we can see that the effect on the gem is the same effect that's going on the water, which means you can see through the object and it reflects its face. So it's using refraction. So unfortunately, we cannot recreate the gems because the gems are using refraction, which is something that TMTK cannot do. However, we can create the GS map and create sunlight reflections as a special effect for realistic looking glass. So that's important to know, that the GS map is not a shader, it's a special effect. All it's doing is reflecting the sunlight, and that's it. You could do whatever you want to that map, and it will not change this effect. It will stay consistent like this. So, the only way that you can get a roughness effect on your glass is by adding normal maps. Regular, everyday, normal maps. But at that point, it's kind of like you might as well just go down the metalness, roughness pipeline. Because with metalness, roughness going on the glass, this is the effect you get. But with the glass map applied to it, it's more vibrant light. Very vibrant light. So, almost invisible to very, very vibrant light. So, alright, so now we're going to look at the pipelines. So, if you want smooth glass that has flexi, then you want to have your base color, your flexi, your inverted normal map, which is your glass map, and an AL map. If you want rough glass, you use the same pipeline as the smooth glass, except you're going to add a normal map for roughness. If you want this glass, either of these glass pipelines, to appear to be shiny, then you would add a metalness map. If you're making ceramic that's very glossy, then you would just do your base color, your flexi map, and a regular inverted normal map. And that will make your object opaque, which means it's not see-through, but it will reflect the sun. And then, again, base color, flexi glass map, and you add a normal map to it, and that'll make the glass rough. And then again, if you want this to be more of a shiny ceramic, then you just add a metalness map. Alright, so this was me experimenting with the DUDV map / normal map variant. And as you see, I tried to make it rough, and regardless of how much I messed with this, it still came out the same effect every time. So there's really no reason to play around and make this super detailed. You could just get away with making it flat. And to do that, starting with black and white, assuming you're using Photoshop, we're going to go filter, render, clouds, then filter, noise, add noise, at very low level. And at this point, we're going to go into 3D, generate normal map. This information doesn't really matter, because like I said, it doesn't matter how much you manipulate the normal, it's still going to come out to the same result. We just need a normal map to do the next step. So from here, unlock this, go here, go invert. Now it creates that. I'm going to merge down. And we're going to go over here and go up to brightness contrast and make our contrast all the way up to the max. And our brightness all the way up to the max. Whoops. Our brightness to the max and our contrast to 0. Nope. No, it's brightness 0. Contrast all the way up. There we go. Okay, that's the result that we want. So, merge down. And this is our glass map. Now, because I already have one in here, I'm just going to call this GS1 or box1 GS. But that's so it'll stay in here, otherwise it'll give me an error. But so that's how you create the normal map variant. It's just a regular normal map inverted, and then the contrast is maxed out. Popping back into Plinko. So so these are the different effects, and you can see how they all are. I have them labeled here so you can kind of see what's going on with everything. And you can see that this and this one doesn't work with the glass map. But all the rest of them do, and depending on which pipelines you use, it affects the way the light bounces off of the object. And like I said, you can use this effect on opaque objects. Looking over here at Mr. King Coaster, you can see they use the glass map on an opaque object, so it doesn't have to be transparent. And then they did the same thing here. And of course on the glass. Alright guys, have fun with that. Now you can actually make realistic glass. And you have all the tools and things that you need to make it. I have examples of the blue one, the red one, and the green one in my shop under Glass Experiment. This is the one that looks exactly like Planet Coaster glass. And this is with a rough face, and this is the one with the high face. So you can see how it distorts the light. Alright, have fun guys with that. We actually know how to use the GS map now, and the pipelines for it. Have fun and have a great day.